Hello, everyone. It's Nick from OK Students. It's Friday. I'm back with Martin to answer your questions. Hey,
Hey
Martin.
guys. Happy Friday. Yeah, I mean it's starting to feel like a nice Friday activity that we're doing every Friday now. So like yeah, nice routine. And good to be back as well. How
Yeah,
are
it's
you?
it's social contact for me. Yeah, we can just chat away and try and be helpful for people.
So what's the topic today?
The topic I thought today we've been having a lot of questions from students who are thinking about their employability, about ones who wanted placements or work opportunities, who were thinking about the post-study work visa, about the UK being a place to help their careers. So I thought we'd really go through the whole kind of principle about getting a job whilst you study and after, and maybe we can answer and give some advice in that kind of conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, working alongside your studies is one of the things that students are usually like really interested about because I mean for obvious reasons some people or some students I mean just need to cover like some part of their living costs or just need some extra money for going out or having fun and yeah, so I would say let's go in like a bracket. So let's start with the very basics of working in the UK. So what would be the very key things that like you need before starting to look for a job?
Yes, so we're talking about working whilst you study, or the things you need to work in the UK legally. So the first thing you need really is um, a national insurance number. So your university, when you enrol, will take you through the process of gaining a national insurance number, and this is the number that allows you to register with an employer, and then it also connects to your tax obligations and these kind of things. Now, as students, there aren't many tax obligations, but the national insurance number records everything that you're earning, so that the
Mhm.
government know about it. It kind of connects your pay slips.
So you cannot get a part-time job without having national insurance number.
Yeah, really, that's what you need to legally work in the UK, and to get a recorded pay slip, pay that goes straight into a bank account. So
Yeah.
that would be the next thing, would be a bank account. Uh, I mean, really, the preference is to have a UK bank account. So you should really think about that as soon as you arrive in the UK, trying to get a bank account,
Mhm.
connect it to your UK address. You've been through this process. Tell us
Yeah,
a
I
bit
mean,
about
with both of them, like I think I did my own national insurance number as soon as I moved to the UK, which was now like 4 years ago, 2016. And yeah, like talking about the NIN, the process was relatively simple. I just Googled about it. I think the government gov.co.uk is the website that just gave like very easy 4 or 5 step process. I remember I had to go to I don't know whose office it was, but probably their office where like answered a couple of they asked a couple of questions from me, and yeah, the whole process took like a week or two max, and I had my national insurance number with me.
it. Mhm.
So that was relatively simple. And yeah, bank account wise as well, like I strongly suggest to open up either UK bank account or these days there is so many like different ones like Monzo and TransferWise
Revolut.
because they kind of give you opportunity to have like different currencies on the card. So my family, as like in the beginning, where I didn't work that much on the side, they like transferred sometimes me money, and it was much easier for them to transfer me euros, and then I just converted them like to pounds on that account.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the conversion of different currencies into different accounts, yeah, it can be quite complicated to find out what the best deal is. Obviously, some of those banks, the kind of fintech solutions, have kind of monthly charges and things like that. But like you say, the ease of it is kind of worth it, and many students like those particular providers.
And I think overall they save you a lot of money as well on the transactions, because the transactions fees on the regular banks are definitely higher than the fees that they have. Um, and as an information for someone who is like moving here and looking for a job, I think it's really important to first of all have UK bank account, because many businesses, employers, they wouldn't even think about like transferring money to international bank account.
Yeah, a lot of banks in the UK are very kind of risk averse. They don't like the idea of international transactions and companies as well, all around kind of money laundering laws. So they don't like moving money into international accounts easily. So yeah, so good advice. So we've got a national insurance number and a UK bank account, both fairly simple to sort out, and both things that the universities will certainly help you with when you arrive in the UK. So, what other practical advice are we going to give at this stage about getting a job whilst you study?
Yeah, I mean, one of like the next obvious thing seems to be the actual CV that all of the employers require these days. I mean, maybe less and less, but for many jobs, they still do ask for a CV. So, what would be your couple of tips for having a good CV?
Yeah, I think the main thing about a CV is to remember that the jobs market is competitive, and that doesn't mean you should write more in a CV. It means you should write less, because you need to stand out very quickly as having the right skills and competencies that somebody's looking for. But you don't want to have to wade through lots of information, because they will have lots and lots of other CVs to get through. So basically, it's communicating your skills as easily, as quickly as possible. So there's some great templates online. And the other thing I see often is that people who've heavily designed their CVs, I understand it for creative roles and artistic roles, but sometimes PDFs and things like that, they don't print well, they don't transfer well. So sometimes people are trying to be very creative with an online CV or a design CV, and it actually brings up barriers for use.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think keeping it simple to a simple Word document is okay. It might look boring, but actually, as long as it's communicating those things,
Mm-hmm.
skills and attributes that you have, and the experience, then that's the best medium to do it at the moment.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, all very good points. Like from my own experience and as a tips as well, definitely keeping it simple is super important. And I would say take your time to be smart and strategical about taking a lot of information and packaging it in one of two sentences.
Yeah,
Because especially as experience, you want to give through as much like information within as little words as possible. So try to package it in one sentence and include like some numbers, what you've done. I'll put a couple of examples over here from my own CV so you can see how I've done it. But yeah, take some time to think it through. And secondly, I think the structure of the CV is really important, because employers, they don't usually want to spend too much time analyzing stuff. And the more simpler you can make it for them to read, the better it is. So have like sections of experience, education, and in a logical order as well. And yeah, so I know one of the template websites is called enhanced.cv that I've used myself. I made my own CV over there, and they are one of those that like give you design template, which is pretty good. Me myself, I included my photo on the CV. I've gotten both negative and positive feedback about that. Like a lot of the UK university advisors and businesses have told it's not a really good practice in here. At the same time, like all of the times for me, it has worked, because I really think that if someone's looking at the CV and they can visualize like you as a person as well, it just gives that extra metrics to kind of visualize someone.
Yeah, and that brings us to probably the most important point, that people hire you based on you as a person rather than your CV. And so you really need to develop the skills, the communication skills, to really explain why you deserve the job, why you're going to be a good employee for somebody, but that you're going to be good to get along with, that you're going to be beneficial to a team. And so the CV is only part of that process of highlighting your skills, but really you as a person need to be very personable and be able to demonstrate what you're going to bring.
Definitely. And then once again, the key word I think would be proactivity, because a lot of people, me included, like admire proactivity. People who want to do things, people who go after it, and yeah, it really stands out. Obviously, to a certain level, you don't want to be annoying and like clingy, if you can say so. But yeah, proactivity usually works out.
Yeah, it's a fine line, like you say, of being proactive, contacting people, being sociable on social, as it were, kind of
Yeah,
that personal branding side, to then tipping over into being a negative perception because you're chasing people too much, you're hassling them too much. So yeah, you have to kind of be proactive, but also not too proactive that it can damage your own profile.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I think the last thing in this section, or one of the last ones I would say, is that depending on how much do you need the job, I would handle like searching for a job as actual full-time job. So whenever I was in a position when I really needed to find like a placement or part-time job, or actually like a full-time job, I looked at it as a full-time job. So sometimes I worked like 5-6 hours a day, like modifying my motivational letters based on the companies. I sent my CVs and like intro emails to like 30-40 companies a day. And that's one of the key things that I find these days from like students and young people as well, that like sometimes I ask them like they complain that, hey, I can't really, no one's answering, I can't get the job. And then I ask them like, how many people did you send your CV to, or how many places have you applied to? And then they're like 8. And then I'm like, obviously, like numbers matter. Like, and if you take it as like a job and you apply 30-40 places a day, then it's highly likely that you hear back from like 5 to 10.
yeah. I mean, it's a really important point that I think so many people miss, is that it's super competitive. You can't look at yourself only. You have to look at how competitive the graduate market is, just the part-time job market. Look how many people are in your class at high school, then multiply that out to how many people will be in a year group at university, or an entire university for the part-time jobs market. So you really need to, like you say, work out a system of being able to apply to lots and lots and lots of opportunities
Mhm.
in order to get some positive responses. So, like you say, making it into a job in itself. And
Yeah,
I think that kind of productivity puts you in really good stead for your entire career. It's the way to approach everything, gaining new business, new clients, all of these sorts of
yeah,
things. You have to really go 10% more than the other person. You have to really try and do more, to get more. Would you agree
definitely,
with that?
150%. And like, I mean, as we've been a little philosophical past couple of episodes, I would add that like hearing no helps a lot as well, because um, getting rejected by a lot of places or not hearing back from them, like it just makes you like stronger. And like in life you're gonna hear no a lot, and some people don't want to work with you, and I think that like grows you as a human being and person as well.
Yeah, and you value when you get a yes, then you really value it, and you know what it takes to get to that stage.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. And these things take time. They really do, to put your energy into writing CVs, to making applications, to then interviewing, sometimes several times. To go through that process is really quite exhausting for many people.
Yeah.
But you have to be kind of fit for that fight. You have to get ready for it, prepare yourself. But also, it takes time. So you need to start early. You need to think about these things in advance. They're never going to happen quickly, unless you're very lucky. So, um, yeah, the biggest mistake I see in terms of placements and graduate jobs is that people start that process far too late. They need to be starting really at the beginning of the year before they want to start that role, so that they get into this kind of model of applying, adapting their CV and
Yeah.
application for that role, and really, really, as you said, playing a numbers game of trying to get as many applications out there as possible. So then, the best case scenario, they have choices at the end of it.
Yeah, and like when as you start talking about placements now, like it's important to like know yourself as well, because like applying to those positions that are advertised on like universities, job sites, and general like placement sites is of course like a really good tactic and works. But you have to think that like all the people are going to apply to those positions. Like me myself, I kind of thought of like another angle, and that might help some of you guys as well. Is just look out 50 to 100 companies in your city or area that you would just like to work for, and go on LinkedIn, on their website, and find out person who is either is in charge of the department you would like to be part of, let's say marketing or sales, and just reach out to like 50 to 100 of them. And you might end up having a placement in a company that didn't even like advertise the place.
Yes, yeah, we're getting quite deep now. We're getting away from the simple things of getting a job, but this is a very important principle, that you don't always see the opportunities that are available. You have to have some faith that these things will come, that the connections will be made, even when you can't see them. So I would say having an open mind and philosophy to accepting opportunities, to saying yes to things, even if it's voluntary, that will almost always, in my experience, lead to something else, lead to something better, something that you do.
Definitely.
And so that principle of in not looking specifically what your dream position is, but actually looking for what opportunities are available and then making them work as part of the journey to get to what you want to be, is really, really important.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it opens up a really good discussion that we discussed before, is like paid versus free. So going back to a bit more like informational and structured approach, what is like what it, so how much can a student make as a part-time, I mean, in a cafe or in a bar? Do you know what's the minimum wage, or like what's how much would they make average in a week? Let's say if they worked like 10 to 12 hours a week.
Yes, so the kind of minimum wage in the UK is about £6.40, something like this, for 21 to 24-year-olds. But it goes up to £8.20. Actually, no, I think I might have got that wrong. I think it's about £8.20 as a general minimum wage. And yeah, as a student, you would have tax breaks as well. So that, in terms of minimum wage on a kind of global scale, you know, the UK minimum wage is very strong, is very good. So to some students from different nationalities, you know, it can be quite lucrative to say, actually, I can support my studies working part-time along my studies with that kind of wage. And that we're talking about hospitality jobs, restaurant jobs, these kind of things, classic part-time jobs that you can do alongside study hours.
Doing quick math here is like, let's say you work 2 shifts in a cafe a week, you can make around like £100 a week.
Of all the students we support, you know, very few talk about struggling once they find a job like this, you know, even a minimum wage job, because you know, there are lots and lots of opportunities, particularly in the hospitality sector, to find part-time work. And also there's a real secret to this, that UK students get a maintenance loan. So they get a loan for their tuition if they wish, but also a loan for their living costs and their accommodation and their living costs. And so it means that often they don't always have the same impetus to find part-time work. They can concentrate on their study and their social life as opposed to needing to work. So actually, for international students, particularly European students, it becomes quite easy to pick up part-time work alongside your study. And even as a tier 4 student, a non-European student, you can work 20 hours a week alongside your study as part of your visa conditions. So, you know, a lot of opportunity to still earn whilst you're studying.
For sure. Awesome. Like, now, having discussed the basics you need to get the job, couple philosophical tips from us, where should one look for a job? Like, do you like in obviously internet, but any websites? So let's discuss the tactics to actually land one.
So the practical things, in the UK, you can register quite easily with kind of temporary worker agencies so that they can source work for you or tell you about opportunities. Some of those are dedicated to students, so employers who are looking for student workers. So registering with an agency, a temporary work agency, would be a great idea. A lot of universities have employability teams or careers teams that will list part-time work. Obviously, there are many jobs within a university campus in hospitality or administration. And so there are sometimes opportunities to work at your university. So registering with your university team as well. And then, there's online job sites, lots and lots of online job sites where you can apply online for positions and go through that kind of process. But I think what we talked about earlier is that people hire people, and so it's much better to try and make those actual connections yourself, some sort of connection with a hiring manager, and that seems to be the most effective way, but time consuming.
Definitely. I mean, there is tons of different tactics that you can do to make that happen. For example, I mean, all I can do is look back to my experience and like talk about that to be the most helpful. Is what I've done in the past is like on LinkedIn, for example, you can play the long game and you can look up a company that you really want to work at and you can start connecting with people. You connect with 5 people, 10 people, start liking their posts, sometimes commenting, kind of just showing that you're there, being really smart about it, that you're not spamming them, you're not messaging all of them, but you kind of are around, which means that you on LinkedIn you can actually get to know people. You can like, if you start like commenting discussion with them, sometimes people do actually remember that stuff. And then whenever there is an opening and you can actually apply for a job, then these things really help. Like a random word in a company between the hiring manager and the another like kind of um, employee in the company, like a random word can sometimes happen and they can tell that, oh yeah, this is this guy from LinkedIn and he sounds great, and like, and this sometimes can be the deciding factor whether you get the job or not.
Yeah, there is a skill to networking of just in your general life, you know, being interested in what people do for a living, what connections they have, and then, you know, subtly suggesting if you see an opportunity that they might be able to introduce you or connect you. I mean, this is a real art, a skill that people develop over their careers,
Yeah.
but it's very, very important, and the way a lot of business works. Um, yeah, so definitely, and LinkedIn is, as you say, a very powerful platform for talking to people of all levels. I think we're all quite aware now that in terms of email and things like that, you know, things can back up or not get responded to. It's quite easy to, you know, ignore people and things like that, and that can cause frustration if you're searching for jobs. But these middle ground social channels that allow you to maybe make subtle contact and people begin to become aware of you and your skills or your ambition.
And yeah, awesome. And I think to kind of finish this section of us talking about employability and getting a job, I would throw a little curveball. Is you don't actually have to wait for the job to start doing the work. You can easily start doing it yourself. Like, you, let's say you want to be a marketer, you can start actually doing marketing stuff on LinkedIn. You can start talking about how to set up Google Ads and like what are the best types of ads. You put the information out, you pick a random company, you look at their ads, and then you can just like write an article about discussing why I think this ad worked and why I think this didn't work. And you can randomly find someone reading that article who works in that company or in any other, and they see that you have the knowledge, the interest, and they will reach out to you and make you offer.
Yeah, the really, really smart graduates are preparing themselves and their personal profile and their skills whilst they have something else going on, so study or the pursuit of a degree, but actually they on the side they're positioning themselves really, really well for the jobs that they want.
Yeah.
And yeah, and getting ready to kind of present those skills without waiting to be asked. They're not waiting for the job, they're doing it already so that somebody can see that they're a really safe bet. They're doing the things that they need.
And I've heard a story about someone in their final year at the university. You know, in the final year, you have to do research project or dissertation, and someone chose the company as a case study to do their dissertation. He or she he went in and did interviews and stuff based on the company, and he used that research project to make the connection with them, which actually landed him a job afterwards.
I mean, a great example. everybody loves, as an employer, they love free work. They love people being proactive and bringing something new, as long as it's adding value. So if you're confident that your research project is going to be useful to that employer, a fantastic initiative to try and basically get a benefit out of the work that you're doing anyway, a career benefit.
Awesome. I mean, it's been a great 20 minutes with you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it was helpful. A lot of people are very excited about the post-study work visa. So this is for students graduating in 2021, so starting in 2020. This is non-Europeans who can remain in the UK to search for work or begin their working careers for 2 years afterwards. So this is an amazing opportunity right now for people to come and start this journey, what we're discussing about getting connections, about getting experience across their degree program, and then in the 2 years after, so they can really position themselves to work in the UK or work internationally. And I think it's a great initiative for the government to bring back this post-study work visa. And it is a great asset to UK education to kind of bring this benefit back for people, because that's what they're doing in the first place, is that they are training for a career, but also they're accessing all of these opportunities that we've discussed. Different connections and experience to build their CV, to build their employability, to get a job at the end of it, or to start the career that they want at the end.
Wonderful. I think that's a good note to end with.
Perfect. If people have specific questions about jobs or about part-time working whilst they're studying, message them in. We can give kind of more precise advice, but also we can connect you to more students that have been through this process, and they'll be happy to message you back and give you their real advice.
Definitely. And if you have any other topics that you're really interested about, or you think that you would want to hear more about, reach out to us and let us know what our next Friday's topic should be about. Because all we really want to do here is just to provide information and help people and give some kind of value to both current students and future students.
Definitely. All right. So
awesome.
I'll see you next week.
And don't forget to follow us on all of our socials. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Medium, pretty much everywhere. Look for OK Student, and yeah, thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.